First up, we'll get you updates on West Asia conflict. Ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah came into effect on Wednesday. The ceasefire agreement, brokered by the US and France, takes effect at 2 GMT or 7:30 IST. Earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a televised speech said that Israel is implementing the ceasefire deal to bring a halt to its conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon, but will respond forcefully to any violation. He added that the ceasefire would allow Israel to focus on Iranian threat and intensify pressure on Hamas.
So why implement a ceasefire now? There are three main reasons. The first reason is to focus on the Iranian threat. The second reason is to give our forces a breather and replenish stocks. And the third reason for having a ceasefire is to separate the fronts and isolate Hamas. From day 2 of the war, Hamas was counting on Hezbollah to fight by its side. When Hezbollah is out of the picture, Hamas is left alone in the fight. Our pressure on it will intensify, and that will help us in our sacred mission of releasing our hostages.
US President Joe Biden called the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah good news. Talking to media, Biden informed that the ceasefire comes into effect at 2 GMT on Wednesday. The US President added that the accord was designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. He reiterated that civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
The fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. Will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed, well, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese Army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
French President Emmanuel Macron also welcomed the signing of the deal, saying the deal represented a new chapter for Lebanon. Macron also said that the deal should open the path for an ending of the Gaza conflict.
Je tenais à saluer l'accord de cessez-le-feu agréé.
This ceasefire needs to be respected in the long term. In order to restore the Lebanese people's security, the Israeli people's security, permit the safe return of displaced people from these two countries to their homes, and therefore allow the restoration of the sovereignty of the Lebanon. This agreement should also open the path for a ceasefire too, long awaited with regard to the incomparable suffering of the population in Gaza.
Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati has welcomed the ceasefire agreement during a phone call with US President Joe Biden. The Lebanese Prime Minister thanked the US President and French President for the support and efforts made by them. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Tuesday welcomed the ceasefire deal and called for the truce to be turned into a lasting political solution in Lebanon. The UK Prime Minister also hoped for a truce in the Gaza conflict. Hailing the truce between Israel and Hezbollah, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said that the deal will increase Lebanon's internal security and stability. The European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell also welcomed the ceasefire deal, saying that it is a relief in the devastating situation in West Asia. He also praised France and the US for their mediation. All right, DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us for more. Akshay, good morning. Now, this is indeed an important development in the West Asian conflict. We've seen how the international world has been optimistic about this deal, about this truce. But help us understand how binding is this deal for both the sides? And also, what are the key points, what are the key highlights of the truce?
Not interested in it. And everybody should understand
that has been
filed by the two sides. However, looking at the consequences of any kind of violation, it is going to be devastating, especially for Lebanon, and that perhaps is the reason why the political leadership of Lebanon will also prevent Hezbollah from either rearming itself or from operating against any of the targets in Israel, because that would mean in many ways complete obliteration of not just the southern parts of Lebanon, but also the capital Beirut. Now that has been signified, that has been talked about by Benjamin Netanyahu as well, that any kind of violation of this particular peace agreement is going to mean that Israel will continue with its attacks on the groups inside the Lebanese territory. Now, the terms of this particular ceasefire is that both the Israeli defense forces, in a phased manner, will withdraw from the Lebanese territory in the next 60 days. Hezbollah will move northwards of the Litani River, which means that it will not be present in southern Lebanon anymore. That means it will not be near the Israeli territory anymore. Now this vacuum is created. Now what happens to it? The Lebanese armed forces, the Lebanese army, the professional army, will now enter this area, and they will be patrolling, they will be doing surveillance, and they will be ensuring that the terms and conditions of this particular ceasefire are adhered to by all the sides. So these are certain terms and conditions that have been set by the countries, including the US and France, where the ceasefire deal was brokered, and the votes were as followed: 10 were in favor of a ceasefire, 1 was against ceasefire. Now that in a way gives you an idea that what kind of sentiments are there in the world as far as a ceasefire is concerned in the Middle East, in the West Asian region. And now this is certainly a good news, but it remains to be seen that when is there going to be a permanent peace, not just in Lebanon, but in the entire West Asian region.
All right. Yes, Akshay, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talked of how this truce and this deal will somewhere weaken Hamas, given the way Hezbollah had been helping Hamas in its in the conflict against Israel. Help us understand, to what extent will this have a bearing on the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and how are both the sides positioned, Israel and Hamas, now?
Well, Preeti, it's quite simple now. Hamas, on 7th of October, when Hamas launched the attack, the terror attack inside Israel, it was Hezbollah as well that was covering for it.
Yes.
It also launched several rockets, and that clearly means that it had given Hamas a direct support. When Hezbollah directly got involved and it was attacked by Israel, its chief was killed, and then we have seen the kind of obliteration that has been done, not just to Hezbollah, but into several other groups in the region, and it's not just Hezbollah's presence in Lebanon, but also in Iran as well. So now Hezbollah realizes that it's either get wiped out completely or stop the fight with Israel, of ceasefire, and perhaps that's the reason why Hezbollah has also agreed to not support Hamas. That is going to significantly weaken the group.
All right, Akshay, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details.